You know, today we only have half an hour because of the holiday seasons, and on the agenda we have not so many items. It's news, further actions, which is a quite, let's say, strange thing, but I want to discuss with you what we shall and do in the upcoming months, and then all other business. Regarding the news, Shane proposed a new logo for this group, and he made this proposal. So the graphics is more or less the same, but the wording he proposed to change from open source tooling group to OpenChain reference tooling. My question to you is, what do you feel about this? Would it be okay? Do you need more time to think about? What's your opinion about, again, changing the logo? Because you know we have already changed it in the past.
Well, maybe I'll get the ball started. This is Francis. I think it's useful to explain that it's a group of people. I worry a little bit that we miss that. It's, you know, more than just the tooling. You know, it's tooling from different persons that work together well. And I sort of would miss the fact that it's a group or a community working on this together.
I see. So are you more fine with the open source tooling group?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's Nico here. I think the good point of the new one is that it mentions OpenChain, and the first one, the one we have today, it doesn't mention compliance or anything. It could be any kind of tool around open source. But at least OpenChain says something about compliance.
That's a good point, yeah. So OpenChain tooling group.
Yes, exactly. I'm not sure the reference is very, very important here.
Perhaps we should then name it OpenChain Compliance Reference Tooling Group, but then the title is bigger than the logo.
But seriously, the OpenChain tooling group would address both Nico's point as well as mine. Yeah.
Did Shane give a reason for the change proposal?
OpenChain marketing, or making more awareness from OpenChain. Surely.
I think I did not ask him. To be honest, I think it's more, or as I can imagine. He wanted to have the name OpenChain in it, and then to express that these are reference toolings and not required toolings to be OpenChain compliant. So that's my guessing currently.
So maybe why do we need the word reference?
Yeah, okay. Hello, guys.
Chain tooling group.
Reference. So hi, Carsten.
Hi.
Reference was he put very much let's say weight on reference, because when we started the reference tooling work group and in the OpenChain umbrella, or under the OpenChain umbrella, there was some feedback that some OpenChain members said, oh, that might be a problem because it could be seen that OpenChain is mandating several tools to be open source or at least OpenChain compliant, and this is not what they want to have. And further, they had some, let's say, bad feelings about then with the ISO standard, so that it would be, let's say, somehow required to use those tools to be then compliant to the upcoming ISO standard.
Can I jump on this?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so basically I understood what the goal behind, and even for example, I don't like this this example. It's a pretty good one actually. So if a company want to use Black Duck and they want to get a stay of a ISO compliant other things, if you actually not put it as a reference, but you stated like kind of mandatory, the company cannot use a Black Duck to couple together with other tools that we are using. And then in the end, we are basically divided market or forcing, we're becoming a product itself or a completely directly competitor instead of working together. The approach that actually really, I really like it, and the point is that even Black Duck approached us and maybe they actually changed their process or their outcomes to couple properly with our tools. It means that if someone decides to use Black Duck or someone decides to use other open source tool together for, let's say, fossology, perfect, it works because it completely fits on the ISO thing. So so if the people don't choose to use any proprietary or external tool, we have a reference tool that is ours. The only thing that actually enforces us is work to make our tools better than the others. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Helio. So are there further opinions?
I have one actually. If the name is too big, why you not actually don't go to for like a most gimmick marketing name? So why you don't call it OpenChain RTG group RTG? So RTG will be reference tooling group is the big name, but we have an acronym for this. If you want to use the reference tooling group name in the bigger ones, it's okay. But RTG, everyone will remember about that because it's a very nice gimmick.
That sounds, in my opinion, good.
That extends the idea we've been developing at the beginning with the comments from myself and Nico, that adding the word reference. So maybe really OpenChain reference tooling group, and
the group should be there, yeah. So perhaps to have it OpenChain and then, as Helio said, RTC or perhaps
RTG.
Yep.
Yes, the group.
I don't think reference tooling group is so large that we have to abbreviate it to an acronym that no one, we have to explain afterwards that RTG is not, but it's not a software, it's a group, that G is a group. And
yes, but come on, this sticks on the head. That the moment that people ask to you about the name and you say about it, you say this twice, and people, oh, it's already remember someone explaining what is this, and then they pass ahead. It's a really marketing thing.
Yeah, I think it's more problematic than it's beneficial, to be, in my opinion. Yeah.
So what I will do is I will write an email to the mailing list with the new logo and with your comments regarding group, and perhaps then we can get to a, let's say, consensus about this.
So I think we all agree that group should be there, the word group, because it's a group, right? The question is whether we want to have reference tooling group or tooling group, right? I understand the need, and Shane really keep mention it every time that we have to have the reference part. I mean, one of the outcomes, and maybe this will affect the discussions that you want to have, Oliver, with next steps and what we're planning to do. So I think one of the outcome of this group should be to talk about a reference implementation of the tooling for compliance, right? But on the other hand, I don't think that our group only discussed this reference implementation, right? Because we are discussing tooling in general, we're discussing different tools, we're discussing, maybe they are in a reference implementation or maybe they're not. So, maybe the group should be general, OpenChain tooling group, but one of the outcomes should be a reference to the chain, right?
Okay.
Sorry to jump in the bike shedding, but what about open source there?
Yeah, this is still missing, Philip. Yes. and so I would.
It's not a proprietary tooling group, or
no.
I don't think we're condoning proprietary software in this context.
No.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's all I had to say.
Okay.
Just I think the bike shed should be blue.
Yeah, but then we can actually enforce on the every time people looking for the process, it's like you have like a phrase that says that we promoted exclusivity on open source tools for the reference. Or something like that. We need to. It's independent if you put open source there on the name or in the reference. I think that you should have it in some point very clear on the front page or whatever people see that actually for this reference tooling or whatever we call it, we are aiming strictly only on open source related things. This needs to be clear.
Yeah, sure. And I have made it clear several times, and also the pull request I have made to the GitHub repo. Here in the result, it's explicitly in the README stated that everybody can participate, but tools are going to be listed only if they are pure open source or handled.
There's one thing that actually is bothering me since the beginning right now, because we have a middle thing between the OpenChain itself and the tooling group that we actually is making ours takes a difficult process to decision. So the kind of the mapping data, the generate format of data, and actually how actually the data is structured is completely need to be completely in some point the couple at the end for the tooling or the OpenChain, because, for example, if you want to work and interoperate between all the tools, we need to have the common set of data protocols and other things that people agree to self. And then this is not inherent for the tool, but it need to be like the reference data that actually we can work together and people can manipulate. So that's actually the main result of the pipeline to interconnect all the applications that we have.
Yeah.
And then we don't have this. And at the point that we start to having this, it's a completely separate project and the tooling itself.
Yeah, I see.
So right now we are mixed between together the both OpenChain and tooling group with this in the middle. We need to realize this soon, otherwise we will become all the time this ping pong between the two projects, understanding exactly which one. So it will be like our internet between the 2 points. That's it. Our internet protocol between OpenChain and tooling group.
Yeah. Yep. I want to make notes for my backup. Okay, then, okay, let's proceed like this. I will write an email with a suggestion or with the suggestion OpenChain open source reference tooling group, and then expect feedback whether this is okay for you or not. And then I think we have an opinion on that. So thank you for the input regarding this. Let's move on further. You probably have noticed on the mailing list, I think it was last week, there was a bit of discussion regarding webinars of the different tools. As far as I remember it, there was a discussion, but there was no concrete further, let's say, suggestion or what shall be done. I think, Nico, you had made a proposal, also Thomas, as far as I remember, Michael and Sebastian, but there was no, let's say, concrete thing. Who or what can be the content of those webinars?
I don't remember doing a proposal. I think Michael replied.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a great idea. Oh yeah, maybe there's something on the list. Oh yes, yeah. No, I was proposing actually to set up a bunch of reference projects for each kind of technologies that we could use to scan with the various tools. I actually started to do that for my own use, like a very basic Maven project, a very basic Nuggets project, for example, just to make sure that my compliance tooling works okay and as expected. So I was thinking maybe we could have a reference set of projects that we could all share.
I think this is a great idea, yeah.
Yeah, back when we were doing interoperability tests between the different SPDX tools, when the tools were being created, right? We had a reference project that different tools scanned, so we could compare the SPDX output of one to the other and find out, who's following the standard and fix the specification on the way. So yeah, this is a great idea.
Agree.
Yeah, but and regarding the let's say this project which shall be scanned, I think it should be a not so complex project.
Yeah, definitely not the kernel.
Yeah.
Not very basic.
Not the kernel that was suggested. Yes, that's not a tip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be basic, and then we could also have more complex ones if we need. Just to make a point in particular in maybe a particular tool, or maybe even some non-regression testing after that. We could have all types of projects.
Yeah, because I think the basic thing is to show functionality, right? Not performance or anything. Yeah, so no. We don't care about scaling right now, right? Let's see what can be achieved, and then
No, my idea was to basically have so there's two kinds of types. So the first thing is kind of like we need hello world projects for each language that are basically very simple, just have the basic structure. Maybe you have some package managers mixed each other, so you can really try out some different stuff. And the next thing what we could do is kind of create the package. In SPX, I think we call them the packages from hell, where we deliberately basically create complicated cases, so that you can really see what tools do and what the improvement. That's more like for the tooling maintainers as well, to know like, hey, these are different cases that people have found. Does our tool work with it, yes or not? And then we can just basically validate it. I think the first case would be to start with kind of like hello world projects that may be simple, have maybe 1 or 2 files in them that do have dependencies and all the other stuff, and then we can test like this.
You have to be careful though, and I have no problem with my tools to have weird project from hells, but you have to be careful because it creates a strong bias towards something that's synthetic and man-made, as opposed to be a real set of files. As an example, there's a set of sample files for license scanners that was put together in SPDX at some point in time. And it's great, except it's not great. For instance, each of the files have a description of what should be found in the file itself, which means that practically it's impossible to run a scanner which doesn't scan two things at the same time, the description of what's supposed to be found plus what's to be found afterwards. So you have to be extremely careful there to avoid things that are looking good on the outside but are impractical and never really represent something you would see in the wild.
Yeah, I think, Philippe, that we should not create synthetic ones, right? We should just choose ideally a widely used software outside, which is somewhere outside, and say, okay, this is our test case, right?
One remark. I think the idea behind the proposal is to switch the working mode of the open source tooling group to a kind of test-driven development. I can only say that this would be a great benefit for all participants. So to have reference tests by which we can verify different toolings, what they really do and what they want to do, and to compare what they say they do and what they really do, they would a great benefit. I appreciate this proposal to switch to a test-driven development. And yes, I also agree we should start with very simple projects and then simple reference tests, and then we can increase the complexity of these tests.
Yeah.
I like this idea, test-driven development.
Okay.
This is what I had in mind when I was thinking non-regression tests was exactly that. So I agree.
It sounds like we have a common view on that, and that we somehow agree on this. So then the next steps then would be to make this real and to set up.
I think it could be done very easily. We need a repository in the group into which we develop and collect the test cases. This could be the first step.
Yeah, probably a different repository for each case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. One case.
So what would the repository contain? I mean, would it contain the real-world example as you would retrieve it from the web? Would it contain that example that's been retrieved from the web and then configured as some scanning? Would it contain the configuration of the scanning and the results of the scanning, or different stages, or what? It's supposed to be educational, isn't it?
I think it should contain just a Hello World project for start, and then maybe some man-made, more complex projects.
So how we currently test in order, we have two kinds of tests. So one is basically just functional tests. These are kind of like Hello World kind of things. The second thing that we have is well, actually, no, we didn't publish this. There are compose tests. So what we do is basically we go to various open source projects and we take complicated cases, and then we have like a configure script that goes to the code repository of the open source project and picks specific files from that code and then copies it basically over to a particular project. So this is what we use to test basically the commercial tools and basically everything on the market, where we basically dynamically generate a test set basically from a configuration file. And so we don't have what the, so just to go back to Philippe's comment, we don't have the actual answer inside of the code repository, because again, the code repository that's being scanned is just composed from it. But of course, we know from the configuration file what the answer should be. And that's.
Let me make a concrete proposal. I'm willing to develop a little, just as it was named, Hello World example, a set of bash scripts may be licensed with two components, one NLP, one BSD, and an overarching proprietary program, and I will integrate it into the repository which we create, and I will write the results. If you have a test, you must also specify the results to compare the mathematically related results with the intended results. And then we can go further steps from this initial proposal.
Cool, good idea. Thank you, Carsten. Yeah, I like this. So then we have something, and then we can work further on this. Sounds great. By the way, we are already at the end of the meeting, so I think we have already covered further actions for the next future. So Carsten will create this repository in our GitHub space. Regarding all other business, then I only have. I think it's the same as I raised in the last meeting. So the next meeting, shall we have it on 26th or 2nd of September? Again, due to the holiday seasons. So I'm.
Please take the 2nd of September. The reason is then I can test our results internally and can present it the next time already.
Yeah.
I would really like to not change the every 2 weeks part. So if we don't do the 26th, we should do it 9th of September because yeah, I have other things happening every 2 weeks, the other Wednesdays.
Yeah, okay. 9th is also okay for me.
Okay, then we go for the 9th. So I did it yesterday. Okay, it was too late when I prepared the slides. I wasn't able to count to 1, 2. Okay, sorry for that. So then we will target the 9th, and then we will fall back to the regular schedule of bi-weekly meetings starting from 9th of September.
Yeah, so we basically just skip one, the 26th.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Guys, thanks. I need to leave to the other meeting.
Yep. So
see you later then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We will now transition to the afternoon meeting.
So now the recording is running. Again, news, further actions, and all other business. Regarding the news, the Shane proposed a new logo. So the drawing is still the same, but the name or the letters have been changed. So you see here in the right-hand corner the original open source tooling group, and Shane proposed OpenChain reference tooling. We also had a lively discussion in the morning meeting about this new proposal, and there was a strong feeling that the word group shall be included, and there was also a proposal that open source shall be included, so which will in the end be like OpenChain reference open source tooling group, which is quite a long name, but I think it's, in my opinion, it's reflecting exactly what the group is about. And we have agreed more or less that I will write an email on the mailing list with this new proposal and ask for feedback. But my question to you is, what's your feeling right now about this new proposal? Do you have any comments? Do you have any improvements, or do you simply reject this?
Is this a friendly or hostile takeover?
At least the work was since several months already under the umbrella of the OpenChain project. Nevertheless, the tooling group itself is not an OpenChain. How should I say? Or the group itself is not consisting purely of OpenChain members. There are a lot of different other persons or representatives included, like Yuyan, like
we are OpenChain member actually.
Actually, really?
Yeah.
So you are a partner or a full member?
Yeah, it's called partner, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also Philip Ombredan, here maps or here technologies. Sorry. So.
I mean, I'm fine with everything because I think the baby needs a name, but I think especially for those that have been committing things and tools or things, it probably would be something where somehow a kind of hearing would be interested, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I remember we've had this discussion, Michael, when we were doing the reference framework thing or capabilities map or something, because this already started then. I'm fine with it because I think OpenChain is the right umbrella. But probably someone else has some objections.
Yeah. Due to this, I will of course write an email to the mailing list. Other opinions right now? Obviously not. The afternoon meetings are always with less discussion than morning meetings. So then there was some discussion on the mailing list. I think it was last week. About webinars for different tools. We also had a discussion in the morning meeting about that, and let's say the main thing or the main outcome of this discussion was that Carsten is volunteering to create a project, a simple test project, which can be used then for further activities and testing, I think, one of the different package managers and the tools connected to. But I want to discuss with you, first of all, whether this kind of things are of value, and what exactly we can further do in if you regard this of value in the context of this matter. No ideas on that?
Is Zoom off the table, or do people have an issue with Zoom?
Pardon?
Do people have an issue with Zoom?
Zoom.
That's what I see.
I do not have tested it yet. I only know that Zoom was blocked for quite a while due to security issues.
Oh, okay.
I do not know whether my company has or now allows using Zoom.
We can use Zoom at Siemens. We are using it for the SW360 calls.
Okay.
I think one of the downside could be that it implies to enroll or subscribe for commercial offering, because the free tier of Zoom allows only meetings up to 40 minutes.
Okay.
For SW360 is okay because we have our calls only for 30 minutes, but I guess for the tooling meeting you would need to buy an account or pay some monthly fee or whatever. I think paying with the monthly fee of $10 is not a big deal, but maybe after 2 years it gets a little bit annoying. I'm sure.
Okay.
So let me summarize some of the long discussion of this morning.
Yep, go ahead, Alexios.
So we started by saying, okay, everybody understands the need for a reference tool chain, right? And one of the things, the thing that mentioned here is that, yeah, okay, for each of the tools, independent whether they are in a reference tool chain or not, we should have a small demo of how it works, right? And in order for the demos to be understandable by everyone and basically show similar things, right? That's why we discussed the need to have a sample test, as Oliver mentioned before, right? So that, you know, all the tools runs on the same or, you know, similar things, right? So all the capabilities of the tools are shown on some same input, right? And we all agreed that suggestions like let's do the Linux kernel, that was not very helpful because they are too large and yeah, we'll be spending our time waiting for the tools to run, right? And basically we do not do any performance evaluation or anything like that, right? So we basically want some simple test cases, and so that functionality can be shown, not performance, right? So the whole idea is that we produce a number of test cases, right? Like the ones that were used in the past for the SPD scanning tools, so that we can have interoperability tests and check whether the output of all the tools is the same, right? Something similar, so that different tools can show what they're doing. So, you know, the whole idea is we start with a very simple hello world, which is just a single, a very simple repository with a couple of files. Then we start introducing different package managers because they are involved. So one will be about Maven, another will be Python and stuff like that, another probably for Go. The whole idea, right? So the whole idea is that we create I don't want to call it a standard, but, you know, a shared set of use cases that the different tools can then show, hey, here's how you work on this one, and here's how you get output for this one. Right? Is this a fair description of what we... Oliver? Yeah.
Super. Exactly. This was a very precise description. Thank you, Alexios.
I think,
sorry.
So, I would say first Michael, then Jan.
I think an alternative to the tool that Carsten is attempting to the project, it could be also considered to use the example project from the Bill of Material working group of the NTIA. But it's good to have one example. And I also fully agree, as I have written on the mailing list, working on a 200 megabyte upload of source code is probably not really fun for a webinar purpose.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Should such a reference not cover different cases? So rather smaller examples, but different technology cases?
What do you mean with with technology cases?
Like Python and Maven and JavaScript also?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, probably that makes sense.
Scanning into RPMs or Debian packages or something like this. Or does that go too far?
No, not too far, but I think it should be let's say, an evolution. So starting with let's say a handful package managers, and then extending the number of different package managers and packages and so on. So that in the end we will cover, if we are lucky, most of the, let's say, heavily used technologies.
But probably we should not start to fight all battles at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why not having a first repository for first language, a quick simple thing, and then another quick simple thing for another, and then we can also extend these repositories each with additional tools that are somehow strange, because most times we have a couple of components that really are difficult and pose real hard cases, and these we can then add in the corresponding language.
Absolutely. The sounds were also very good to me.
Yep.
This will also lead to something that can be finished within a certain time, or at least started, because it just requires the kickoff.
Yeah, that was the idea. And in the morning, Karsten said that, he will start by providing a very simple thing, and then we can start building on top of it and, adding more things and different languages and technologies. And that's the whole thing. Right. Oh, another thing that was mentioned is that we don't look for synthetic benchmarks that, for edge use cases, right? As we do, for example, in the scanners, because that's where you have to find everything. We're looking for typical things. So ideally, we're looking at, something that is already out there, a repository that is small and we can process it.
Yep, exactly.
I guess we can also move a couple of our sample repositories over there.
No, that would be great. Yeah,
shall they be in this collective repository that we are using for these documentation materials here, or is there another harbor where we should ship the stuff to? Or
I think it would be perhaps a good idea to under this group open source compliance to create another repository, so side by side this sharing creates value, to contain these example things. So that's my current feeling right now. But if you have a better idea, I'm totally open to that.
No, it's all fine. I just think it's relevant to make a decision on that.
Yeah, sure.
I think for handling it would be better to have a separate repo.
Absolutely. Especially if you want to do kind of repo scanning or allowing to clone the repo, then this makes a lot of sense. Could think about doing some kind of repo in repo. So if you have like a multi-component thing where you build different components from different parts or branches.
So probably each case should be its own repo, and then we can combine more with Git modules and
Okay. Okay. Further ideas and comments? Nope.
Sounds good to me.
Do we act in compliance or uploading those things to GitHub?
Pardon?
Are we acting compliant in terms of licenses uploading those things to GitHub? Or should we rather consider a procedure that collects the information for everybody who's using it? So like the recipe to construct the assets locally. And the different available sources.
Currently, I do not see a potential license issue. Perhaps you can explain it a little bit more in detail what you are thinking about regarding licensing issues.
Probably should not use some kind of closed source.
Yeah, of course. By the way, I do not have the Windows source code. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, well, for example, non-commercial artifacts, for example, how do they relate to OpenChain? Is that possible? Is OpenChain a non-commercial entity?
It's a project of the Linux Foundation.
Project of the Linux Foundation is probably a commercial entity.
It's a non-profit organization.
Does that help? Do we have a legal assessment here?
No. Let's do the following. Let's see and check with Carsten what he is creating and what he's doing, and then we can also see whether there would be some issue. Personally, I do not expect some issues, but of course you never know. And then based on this first example, we can add more cases in different repos and provide here more information about that. Regarding the further actions, I think now we have defined further actions. Do you have any other further actions in mind which shall be or which shall be worked on in next future or next period of?
Actually, I was pointing out something, but I don't think I put it in some kind of protocol. In the last call that we've had, the one that I was hosting, we were discussing about completing actually or finalizing the tool, the capabilities map, because we have started it and it's almost a year ago, I guess, or was it the beginning of this year? I don't know. But,
I think it was beginning of this year.
Yeah, and since then we did not continue, and probably it's just requires a little bit of attention, and then we could finalize it, because there were a lot of people saying this is value to them, and we probably could finalize this. This would probably be value.
Yeah. Okay. Capability model.
Michael, did you hear anything from the SAP colleagues? Because I didn't get any touch with them anymore over the last months.
Actually, I didn't hear, but I think they didn't hear from me as well. So I think there have been like 2 telcos, but on SW360, not on the capabilities map. With Stefan, but not with Michael. I didn't track it because, frankly, I feel like since the Corona lockdown, it is a little bit less productive, like the daily pace. So I didn't hear it answered.
It's also lockdown.
Maybe Jan, you should send an email to the list reminder. Hey, we have this thing. If anybody wants to,
I will do. Probably I just set up a meeting and say, look guys, we want to get this done, and not make it, and let the first version not be the most complete one, and then we can probably start over with what we already have and finalize it on the run.
I think this is a great idea, Jan. Okay, further things?
I think that's enough.
Yeah, I think so. Because we do not have that plenty of time available. Okay, this leads me then to the all other business. So, of course, the next meeting, we agreed in the morning that the next meeting will happen on 9th of September. And besides that, so this is again then an hourly meeting, because I hope that there will be some news and some results already. Carsten promised it, and then I think we are done. Or do you have any other business you want to share?
Probably just in information. Tomorrow at lunchtime, I think 2 o'clock. For those that are a member of the Bitkom open source compliance group, I saw that Frank was sending around an invitation for this group, and it's I would expect the talk of Mr. Kutula. Sounds pretty amazing. I was surprised. He's about clearance of the Linux kernel, so it's for an automotive company. So it seems to be very promising.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Kutula. Okay. Cool. I will probably not be able to make it because I do have. Just let me check. I'm totally blocked tomorrow in the meetings.
It's at 2.
Yeah. Oh no.
That was just an information for those that also are in the Bitcoin.
No, I will not. I will not able to make it. I have another meeting in parallel. But perhaps if it's nice and interesting, and are you intending to attend this meeting?
Actually, I wasn't, but then when I was reading the invite, I tried to reschedule my events. Not sure whether it works, but yeah, looking forward. Probably they are doing a recording, and then it will be available for us. But,
would be great if you could share it then.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Is this meeting only for members of the compliance group you mentioned, or is it open to others as well?
That's a good question. It has been. I think the work groups have been also open for others, didn't they?
I do not know exactly. So at least the work groups are open to all Bitkom members, but I do not know whether they are in general open.
If anyone can ask tomorrow whether everybody else.
I remember the time when I was in the board, and there we also were open for third parties.
Okay.
Jan, could you forward this invite to me and Max, maybe?
That is Robert.
Yes.
What and who's Max?
Max Brito, also from Lecture.
Yeah.
Maybe he's also interested, yeah, because this is one of our topics, Linux and automotive.
Yeah, no problem.
Of course.
That would be nice. Thank you.
Okay, then we are already at the end of the time. So thank you. Have a nice evening or day, and looking forward to hear you again on 9th of September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.